Good morning, everyone. So, again, we will start with a short breathing meditation exercise to quiet our mind and to bring our mind in moment and present. Okay, before we start. Make yourself relaxed, comfortable. Then breathe in and out naturally. And as you breathe in and out, keep your attention to the breath. Observing and watching the breath. When you breathe in, watching and being aware you are breathing in, and when you breathe out, observing and being aware you are breathing out. So just simply just observing and being aware with your breath. Then we can try to have positive intention to be here. We can think, unless our mind is calm and peaceful, no matter what the external conditions are, we will always find some reason to complain, to be unhappy. There's always something to be dissatisfied, unhappy, and complain. On the other hand, if your mind is calm, peaceful, content, even though external conditions might not be the perfect and good, you will always find something to be grateful, something to be happy, something to rejoice. Through that can make your life much more happier, peaceful. Therefore, it's quite clear, it's so important to work with our mind so we can reduce and overcome those feelings, emotion, thought, mind that disturb our mind. That agitate our mind. And trying to cultivate and improve, increase those state of mind that bring more peace, more joy, more happiness, more enlightenment. And in order to do that, we need to contemplate meditative practice correctly, continuously. Not just one day, 1 week, 1 month, just 1 year, but continuously throughout our life. And for that, we need to continue to learn, study about those different practice, meditations, by listening and so forth. Therefore, I'm going to listen so that I can apply in my everyday life as much as possible, whatever I find helpful, beneficial. So that I can transform my mind to be more positive, to be more kind, compassion, and more understanding. May my act of coming here to listen and to engage in discussion, reflections, may all of this become cause and condition to transform and change my mind for betterness. And to achieve fully awakened state so I can be greatest help, benefit to all sentient beings, including myself. Okay.
Taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. Oh, welcome. Once in English and twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodan Soki Chonan La Janchu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chonin Gepet Sonamgi Drola Penshir Sange Druparsho Sange Chodan Soki Chonan La Janchu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chonenge Petsognangi Jola Penshir Sange Druparsho.
Angye duje nyezone, adamje bambeje, dambe chene denjebe, kodamde la chaksa. Again, welcome everyone, and we have been going through one discussions on what is known as the Lamrim, of stages of the path to enlightenment, by following one particular text by the Third Dalai Lama, and we are in the sections where he talks about having recognized how precious this our human life is, and how to make most of this precious human life and not to waste it, and make our life meaningful, and how to make it meaningful. So we are on section on that. And in terms of making our life meaningful, he talked about how we can make our life meaningful by engaging in the Dharma practice of any of the, practice of three scope or three capacity. And before that, then the author explained here how all the Buddha's teaching and practice are kind of contained or contents within those three practices. And he spoke about the how Buddha from the very beginning, when he entered the spiritual path, the reason that why he entered the spiritual path is because he saw so much suffering and pain, and in order to help them to overcome the pain and suffering. So the very first to enter the path is out of compassion. And while on the path, as he practiced, he continued to practice and continue to develop is also to help and benefit sentient beings. And the very reason why he achieved fully enlightened state is also to benefit and help. And after his enlightenment, the very reason why he taught, sharing his wisdom experience in the path, is also to benefit sentient beings. And then within the way to help and benefit sentient beings is two ways: to help temporary help and ultimate help. There are two ways of helping. And so that is where we are in that sections where you think page number 9 at the very end, where is how the path of 3 level of spiritual application contains all teaching of Buddha. And I think I've read the first one, and then the practice he taught fall into 2 divisions. First, those aim at the temporary benefit of high rebirth as humans and God. So temporary benefit, for example, to have a more peace, more happiness, more joy in this life. Not only more peace, more joy in this life, but also, to have a better high rebirth as a human and God in the futures. So that is kind of temporary benefit. So he taught some teachings how to do that, how to create the right cause and condition and practice in order to have those temporary happiness. And then secondly, those aim at bringing the true ultimate benefit of liberation from samsara and attainment of omniscience. And then in terms of ultimate happiness or ultimate benefit, then he taught many teachings and practice that we can practice and cultivate in order to achieve what we call liberations. So liberation here means, your mind being free from all the afflictive emotions, all the negative, disturbing emotions, and free from all the contaminated karma, So he taught many different teachings at how to do that. The other ultimate benefit is to achieve our highest potential. Not only we can be free from all the suffering and the cause of all the suffering or pain, which are our own karma and afflictive emotions. Not only being free from that, but we can achieve our highest level of potential to become, to achieve, highest level of wisdom, compassion, loving kindness, and skillful means and power to be greatest help and benefit and help others. And so he also taught many teachings, practice how to cultivate that state so that we can be greatest benefit. So the first group of the practice, that is related with benefit for temporary happiness, is known as the practice of persons of initial capacity. In some other translation, sometimes there's a small scope, but it's initial capacity, because they are used as a basis for all higher practices. So you start with that practice, and with that practice as a basis and foundations, then it helps you to develop and practice the higher level of other practices. They are called practice common with the persons of initial capacities. The nature of the practitioner of initial capacities outlined in the great Indian master Adisha's Lamrim for the path of enlightenment. So there he says, someone, any practitioner or anyone who by the various method, different method, practice, meditations, whatever different various method, in terms of the motivations, aim at higher samsaric happiness. So higher samsaric happiness is, whether it is, just the happiness of this life, or, just the higher happiness of higher rebirth in the futures within the samsara. with his own interest in mind, and the motivation is for his own self-interest, is known as a spiritual aspirant of initial capacity. So here, that is practitioner of initial capacity is one who does not work for the pleasure of this life. So there are slightly different, many of the Kadamba's masters or Kadamba's teachings, they talk about in order your practice to become a pure Dharma, your motivation shouldn't be just concerned with just this lifetime, but it should be more than that. If your motivation is just only for just this lifetime, then it doesn't become a pure Dharma. In order to be pure Dharma, it should be more than that. So that is, I think, similar here is saying. So within those, the Dharma of small scope. In some teaching, they talk about within that there's two categories. One is ordinary and one is more special practice of small scope Dharma. And ordinary is, just only thinking you do the practice only to feel good or peace or happy and joy, calm, just only about this life, then that becomes ordinary. But if you not only just think of this life, but while you might think of this life, but to be able to think beyond that, also your mind preparing for the futures as well. And so then that becomes more special practice of small scope. So that is where, so here is one who does not work for the pleasure of this life only. So you have to have the only pleasure of this life, But if you don't, while you think of pleasure of this life, but also more than that, then, but if you don't think beyond just the pleasure of this life, then it become even the practice of small scope. But instead set his or her mind upon the practice leading to the rebirth as either human and God, But not only thinking of just this life, pleasure of this life, but also thinking and preparing for, continue the higher rebirth in the futures. So that should, and the practice that, so that is regarding the practice that related to temporary benefit and temporary happiness, So if we meditate, if we practice, just only to feel, peace, calm, joy, only in just this life, then your practice become very, limited. You limit your own practice, potential of your practice, even though your practice has so much potential due to your own that kind of motivation, intention, you limit the power of your practice because the power of practice has much more than that, has to offer much more than that. So, then the practice that yield ultimate benefit are two types, as mentioned. Those that bring nirvana or liberation, that is merely a freedom from samsaric sufferings. And when you talk of samsara, you have heard the samsara, that word very often. In English, if you translate cyclic existence, even that is not normal English words. Samsara is the Sanskrit word. But samsara doesn't talk about the external world. A lot of time when you think samsara, we always think this external world. Or I have to free from the samsara means I have to free from this world or this universe. Do you get it? Or if I'm in this world, then I'm still samsaric being, or I'm in samsara. Samsara is not the external place. It's the state of mind. If your mind is still under the control or influence of afflictive emotions, and if your state is being under the influence of karma and the delusion, that is samsara. If you are free from the karma and the afflictive emotion, delusions, you can be in this world and you are not in samsara. You are not in samsara. You don't have to escape from this place to free from the samsara. You can be in this world, this very place. But if your mind and if your being is influenced by the karma and the afflictive emotion, delusions, such as anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, so forth, then no matter where you are in samsara. You can be in this world, you might be in another different world, you might be in different universe, you might be wherever you are, still you are in samsara. You are not free from samsara. That is, I think, very important to understand. I think I find a lot of people, when they talk samsara, they think about this world that we are living in. External instead of thinking internal. When you are free from the delusion karma, then you are no more in samsara. Wherever you are, in whatever form you are, whatever body you have, whatever form you have, you are no more in samsara, So that is merely freedom from samsaric sufferings and the cause of those samsara suffering, which is the karma and the delusions. And then those that bring liberation to omniscience. And that is the most highest level of happiness, where there is no more, you reach a state of fully awakened state or fully enlightened or omniscient, that there's no more to learn, there's no more to improve, there's no more to achieve, there's no more to abandon. When you reach that, there's no more to, abandon anything. There's no more to eliminate anything. There's no more to change anything. There's no more to accomplish, that you have abandoned everything that needs to be abandoned, all the obscurations, and you have accomplished and achieved whatever needs to be achieved, whatever needs to be accomplished. There's no more to learn. There's no more to achieve. And when you achieve that state, then that is when you become the greatest source to be greatest benefit and help to other sentient beings. And that is the ultimate goal that one wants to achieve and aspire for as a practitioners on Mahayana path, Lamrim practitioners. So that the former, which is those that bring nirvana, that's merely freedom from samsara, that is the former, known as the practice of person of intermediate capacity, or practice common with the persons of intermediate capacity. And then that is explained additional length to the path, saying, he or whoever, who the aim of peace for himself, so that peace is internal peace, total freedom from all those afflictive emotions, total freedom from the karma and the sufferings. Turn his back on samsaric happiness. And that means who is not attached to any samsaric pleasure. Turn back to the samsara pleasure means who is not be caught up by the samsaric pleasure, who is not attached to that, who doesn't have grasping to that, Turn away from samsaric pleasure doesn't mean you run away from all the things. You give up your house, you give up your everything and run away in the monasteries or in the cave. It doesn't mean that. Turn away from samsara. It means it's not, again, it's not talking about something external, it's talking about internal. Turn away your mind that is grasping and clinging to the samsara, craving to the samsaric pleasure, giving up that. The problem, the cause of suffering, the problem is not the external things. The problem is our mind. Grasping, clinging, craving, attachment to so many things, that becomes the problem. That is the cause of problem. That is the source of our sufferings. Unhappy mind. No matter what we have, we still are not happy, satisfied, content. Still, we wish we could have that one. And so when you have that, feeling that you don't have enough and you want more or better or something else, that is what makes our mind unhappy, dissatisfied. That kind of craving, attachment is and so that is turn his back on samsara happiness, is that giving up such attachment, craving, not being attached, craving, grasping, that is what it is. And reverse all negative karma and try to, avoid creating any unhealthy, unwholesome, negative actions that brings suffering to others and oneself. That brings suffering to others and oneself. Try to avoid and give up any of those unwholesome negative actions or karma. And such who engage in such practice is known as the spiritual aspirant of intermediate capacity. So someone with a wish to achieve everlasting true happiness, and then in order to achieve that everlasting inner peace and happiness, in order to achieve that, then avoiding and giving up, creating the unwholesome and contaminated actions, and those afflictive emotions such as craving and so forth, and ignorance, so forth, is known as the spiritual aspirant intermediate capacity. That is, the intermediate practitioner turns his back on security and joy of higher samsaric rebirth and take up the practice of three higher trainings. So, not only not being attached to any of the pleasure of this happiness, but also not being attached and craving for higher rebirth as well. Not being attached to even the higher rebirth in the futures. And as a way to free from this samsara and the cause of samsara, then they engage and practice in three higher training. What are those three higher training? Those are ethical conduct, meditative concentrations, and the wisdom. So the practitioner, such practitioner, then engage in such those three practice, mainly those three practice, having a strong ethical or moral conduct or discipline. That means trying to avoid any kind of actions, either through your body, speech, or mind, that brings pain and suffering, harm to others and oneself. That means such as on minimum level, refraining from engaging in what we call 10 non-virtuous actions, such as taking the life of others, stealing, engaging in sexual misconduct, avoiding from lying, engaging in divisive speech, harsh speech, meaningless idle gossips, avoiding from having too much covetousness mind, always wanting other people's more and more, and avoiding ill will feelings, having a harsh feeling for others, and um, avoiding or restraining from the wrong view. So those is the practice of moral discipline, ethical discipline. Because if we engage into such actions, if we engage in any of those actions, it will definitely bring suffering to either yourself, others, or both. When you engage in any of those actions, for sure it will bring suffering and harm to either yourself, others, or both. And so therefore, we try to avoid those and try to have a strong practice of such ethical conduct or moral discipline. Not only we need ethical moral discipline, then we train our mind to have a strong concentrations, strong focus, concentration mind. Because if you don't have concentration mind, if your mind is always kind of, distracted very easily, or, laxity where you don't have clarity and intensity, then again, even you try to practice, your practice doesn't become so strong and effective. Because you do practice with very either distracted mind, so your mind is not fully there while you are doing the meditation practice. Even you are trying to meditate, your mind is not fully there, because either you are your mind is distracted, or even when sometimes you're not distracted, your mind is kind of dull, not so clarity, or sometimes there's no intensity in that mind, alertness in that mind. And so instead, by overcoming that, then we try to develop a meditative concentration where it is fully focused, very alert all the time. And with that concentrated and alert that mind, then if you utilize that mind for anything, and especially in your practice meditation, then whatever practice meditation, you become much more powerful, much more stronger. And then once you have that build up, that strong concentrations, then you use that concentrated mind to develop the wisdom, realizing the ultimate reality, and that can kind of get rid of all the afflictive emotion, all the delusions, because those afflictive emotion, delusion are the root of all the suffering and problems. And so therefore and the wisdom in order to attain that liberations. And so what is the liberations? So here, which is free from all afflicted minds, okay? So it is a state of mind, your state of mind. Liberation or nirvana means the mind that's free from all these afflictive mind, or what we call defilements or delusions, those disturbing negative emotions such as, again, anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, ignorance, and so forth. And karma, that causes samsara. And karma is the contaminated actions, or the imprint or potential that has been left by such contaminated actions. And those delusional minds or afflictive emotion and the karma is the root of the samsara and the sufferings. Finally, in additions to the Theravadan vehicle practice outlined above, so in Theravadan vehicle practice is main focus on three higher training: moral, ethical, moral, ethical contact, meditative concentration, and wisdom. Those are the main kind of nirvana. So that is which is mentioned above as a part of intermediate capacity practice, which outlined above. The method that accomplished Buddhahood include all the practice of perfection of vehicle in the sutra and Vajra vehicle, the tantra. So, those practice methods include cultivating loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and engage in practice of such as 6 paramita or perfections, the practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, and so forth. And then and those methods are known as practice exclusive for the person with great capacities. Even though those who are on the path to individual liberations, arhat, even though they do practice certain level of loving kindness, compassion, but they don't emphasize so much on the great compassion and love as it is emphasized in the Bodhisattva path or Mahayana path. And so in relation to that, in Adisha Lem to the path says, he who sees suffering of his own life and realizing that others suffer likewise by using your own experience, how painful it is, how much suffering it is to be in samsara, to be under the control of the karma and the delusions, not having freedom from them. Through that understanding, then you realize, not I'm only experiencing that and going through such pain and suffering. All other sentient beings are similarly experiencing suffering like myself, or even some of them, even more than myself. Through that understanding, then you cultivate love and compassion for others. And wishes to put an end to all misery, and then cultivating a wish to free oneself, but all sentient beings from all those suffering and the cause of suffering. And such person or practitioner is known as spiritual aspirant of supreme capacity. In other words, the supreme practitioner is the one who, empowered by the great compassions and bodhicitta mind, takes up method such as the 6 perfections, as I mentioned, 6 perfection or 6 paramita, the practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, enthusiasm and virtues, meditative concentration and wisdom. Those 6 perfection and 2 stages of the tantra, and those are the generation stage and completion stage. Those are the 2 stages. In order to attain full Buddhahood, and the reason to achieve the full Buddhahood or fully enlightenment is in order to extinguish the sufferings of others. So the very purpose of wanting to achieve fully awakened and fully enlightened state is not just to become great being yourself, or enlightening yourself, but in order to help to reduce and eliminate the suffering and miseries of others. If that is not the motivation, if it's all about I want to become fully enlightenment, because if I become enlightenment, there's no more suffering, there's no more delusions, there's no more karma, there's no more obscurations, and I have all the highest level of wisdom, compassion, and skillful means all. If that is the motivation, then that is selfish attitude. But if the motivation is to help benefit, I want to achieve that state so I can be more benefit and help to others, then that becomes the right motivations to enter in this path. It's like, I want to become rich so I can have all the wealth. So I can have a big house, I can drive some of the fancy car, I can all this. Or the motivation, I want to be rich so I can help those who need help. The reason to be rich, there can be two motivations. To have your own, the motivation to have all the luxury and all that comfort for yourself, or in order to reduce the poverty and the sufferings of others so that you can use your, similarly, this is of course small example of that. This is how the path of three capacity of spiritual application contains all the teachings of the Buddha, teachings or the practice of the Buddha. Okay? Then next he explained the reason for leading aspirant or practitioner through such three levels. Why is it important to, lead or guide through such stages? Why don't you start from the very beginning, the practice of supreme capacity, the Mahayana practice, the Bodhisattva practice? Why don't we start with that? Because that is the supreme, that is the way we want to achieve. Why don't we start? Why do we have to go through the middle or intermediate capacity practice and the initial practice? Why do we need to? So then that is what he is explaining here. Although the practice of all three levels of spiritual application are taught in Lamrim traditions, this is done only because it's necessary to go through the two lower level of practice as a branches that can support, that can help, leading to the third and the highest capacity. In the Lamrim tradition, you do not take up practice of low capacity merely to gain samsaric comfort of higher rebirth. That is not the intentions. Even when you engage in the practice, that is related with the small scope practice. Okay? Whether it's the meditation on present human rebirth, whether it's a meditation on as you become dead impermanent, whether it's meditation on the substance of lower rebirth, whether it's meditations on refuge and all. Even though we do those practice, those meditation, those practice, is not just to have better higher rebirth. Okay? Nor do we take up those intermediate capacity, the practice such as three higher training, merely to benefit yourself by gaining nirvana or liberation from cyclic existence just for yourself. Nor for that. You do both of those practice purely as a preliminary to the practice of greater capacity, as a foundations, as a branch, as a preliminary, as a something that helps to support the the practice of higher capacity as that. So your motivation is always to achieve fully enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, whichever practice you do. That is, the actual body or Lamrim practice is that of highest of the three vehicles. So the actual body, the main practice of Lamrim is about the Mahayana or the bodhisattva practice. That is the main. The actual body of the Lamrim is that. The main essence of practice is that. If that's the case, then why in Lamrim they about the practice scope and initial scope? Because those practices help as a foundation, as a preliminary, to have a stronger practice of the bodhisattva practice. So that way, why is so much emphasis placed upon the practice of high capacity? Why is that the supreme among those three practices? So much. Why the actual body of this whole practice? Because there is no door to Mahayana other than bodhicitta. Whether you become true Mahayana practitioner or not, is whether you have the bodhicitta or not. If you have cultivated the bodhicitta mind, the awakening mind of bodhicitta, then you become true Mahayana practitioners. And you become the bodhisattvas. If you have that, If you don't have that awakening mind of bodhicitta, that is rooted in loving kindness, compassion, if you don't have that, even you have a direct realization of emptiness, even you have a very highest level of meditative concentration, where you can concentrate without any distraction, even for days and weeks and months, even you have all these qualities. If you don't have bodhicitta mind, you are not a Mahayanas, you are not a bodhisattvas. Even you have all other qualities. So what makes someone a true Mahayana practitioner? What makes someone true bodhisattva is whether they have that bodhicitta mind or not. And that is why, and the bodhicitta is the unique quality of practitioner of highest capacity. You must therefore develop it. And again, of course, it will come more what bodhicitta is. Bodhicitta is again Sanskrit word. Bodhi means enlightenment, citta means mind, the mind of enlightenment. Sometimes it's translated awakening mind. And it is the mind to achieve fully enlightened or fully awakened state so that you can be greatest help, benefit to all sentient beings. And that is what bodhicitta mind is. And so in one of the sutras, Buddha gave an example of how when you are born in a royal family, even as newly born child, they become the next king or the queens, Even though the king might have very experienced and very, not only experienced, very learned minister with learned so much in their life and so much experience in that, but that child newly born become more powerful than the minister because of being born in that as a royal in a royal family, So it overpower the experience and the expertise and all of the minister just by being born in that lineage. Okay. The whole king and minister is all about protecting they hold that newly born child, the prince, as more precious than that minister. Protection that. Same way it explained, similarly they say, even you have incredible practice of moral discipline, incredible level of meditative concentrations, like that experienced minister, even if you have a great wisdom realizing emptiness. But someone who don't have wisdom realizing emptiness, who doesn't have meditative concentration, but who have just developed through bodhicitta mind, is like that a prince. Just by the power of that bodhicitta mind, it overpower even such as arhat. That bodhisattva that become object of homage, respect by even the arhat. In some of many other practice, that arhat has much more higher practice. Direct realization and emptiness, meditative concentration, many other incredible qualities. But this one, even though he or she doesn't have much quality, other quality develop at the moment, but the moment he or she develop the bodhicitta mind, he or she become overwhelmed and power. So that is such, and that is unique. The wisdom is not the unique. The wisdom is a common practice for both. Arhat also try to develop that, and also, or those who are on the arhat path, also those who are bodhisattvas. Meditative concentration is also common path. Also the ethical contact or moral contact is also common. So what is uncommon or unique practice of the highest capacity or the Mahayana is that bodhicitta, is the unique qualities that differentiates. Through other practice and spiritual realization, you cannot differentiate someone being bodhisattvas or not bodhisattvas, someone being Mahayana or not Mahayanas. And so that is why it is called unique quality. And in order to develop such awakening mind of bodhicitta, to do this, you begin by contemplating its benefit and thereby generate a longing to attain it. Thereby, the more you contemplate on the benefit of the bodhicitta mind, and the more you understand the benefit of that bodhicitta mind, the more stronger wish, inspiration you have to generate or to cultivate that mind. And these benefits are of two kinds. So what are the benefits of cultivating bodhicitta mind? Temporary benefit and ultimate benefits. Temporarily, bodhicitta guarantees the joyous fruit of high rebirth. And first of all, if you have developed bodhicitta mind, you don't have any bad feelings to others. If you don't have bad feeling to others, your mind doesn't get disturbed. There's already peace and calm. You don't have to think that about anyone's. Whether the person is good or bad, whether their actions are good or bad. Whether the person is a very kind person or whether the person is a very unkind person, but you don't have any ill will feeling, bad feeling towards any of them. If you don't have that bad feeling, ill will feeling, your mind doesn't have to be disturbed, agitated. You develop much more calm, peaceful mind. At the moment we see someone's action and your mind disturbed. Oh, how horrible that person is, how bad that person is, all these kind of negative thoughts, and then that disturbs your mind and your peace, So it brings peace, calm mind. When you have bodhicitta mind, you don't have too much or strong ego or self-centeredness. If you don't have strong self-centered ego mind, you will be much more happy, calm, peaceful. If someone is not so nice to you, not so kind to you, you wouldn't feel so hurt and so disappointed, so upset. You can just kind of, let it go easily. But when you have strong ego, a strong self-centeredness, then you feel, how dare you treat me that way? How dare you treat me that way? You get easily disappointed. You get easily hurt. And that feeling of easily hurt and disappointed, then that leads to other feeling of resentment, anger, and all of those different negative feelings. And when we have all those negative feelings, we all know what it is to be in those negative feelings. When you have those feelings, you are not happy. Your mind is not peaceful, calm, joyful. So when you develop bodhicitta mind, that bodhicitta mind is antidote to that kind of ego and selfish attitude. It reduces that mind. So immediately you find so much peace, happiness in your life. You don't get so easily disturbed and agitated by people's behavior, actions, attitude. Mm. And if you don't have those negative feelings, you don't act those negative feelings. A lot of time we act because we have those feelings, and out of those feelings, then we act. So if you don't have those harsh feeling, negative feeling towards others, then you don't behave and act harmfully, negatively to others, harsh to others. If you don't act that way, and if you don't have those negative feelings, the other people, the other person also will feel that energy. And when they feel that, and then they are also more kind, more compassionate, more respectful. And when you have more people who are more kind, more respectful, more compassionate, more loving care, it makes yourself more secure, more peaceful, more happy. So it helps you, it helps others, It makes you more calm, peaceful, and you create conditions, environment for others to feel more comfortable, more peaceful, more kind, And also you don't create, so much negative karma. We create so much negative karma, harmful actions due to our ego, due to our due to our ego and due to our self-centeredness. So those. Also, there is, from medical science, also there are research that indicates the more people who think, oh, I, me, more of that, they are more prone to a heart-related illness. Who always think of me, or who always say I, me all the time, there's a connection between that. Also on the health, also in terms of health issues. Because of that, I think there's some kind of, I don't know how big it is, but there seems to be some kind of movements or some people's who use, instead of me, when they're using their name, because we use that all the time, I or me, instead of using I, me, trying to reduce that wordless, because when you use word, your mind also follow that. So instead of saying me, they say, Thubten Sherab or Geshe Sherab. Instead of me or I, they use John or Susan or whatever name they. So trying to use less of that, the word me or I or self, because each time we use that, your mind also thinking of that. So anyway, so yeah, there is definitely some research that shows connection between the more you think of the self, or the stronger self-centered it is, the effect that have in your physical well-being, especially related with heart. So it helps your physical well-being, emotional, mental well-being, calm, peaceful, If you have developed bodhicitta mind, you have more concern for others, you help more others. And when you have more concern, more compassion, and when you are able to help more with that kind of compassion, love, also it gives you sense of satisfaction, sense of meaning in your life. And you develop more confidence in yourself, better self-image of yourself. And that is what it is. If we look ourselves, if we think, I'm so selfish, I'm only thinking myself and all, you started to create a bad self-image of yourself. You started to lose confidence in yourself, how selfish I am, how negative I am. Not only it create a negative self-image of yourself, but then also that also thinks, I'm not the one. Then you start thinking, oh, maybe everyone is like myself. Only thinking of themselves, all selfish like myself. So that you trust lose in others as well. On others, when you know you are kind, compassionate, and concerns and caring and others, and when you think of others, not only you feel good about yourself and have good self-image of yourself, self-satisfactions, but you also think, I'm not the only one. There are also many others who only think of others, who are concerned with others, who are compassionate. So you also started to have a better image of others and more trust in others, other humanities, other persons. So it can affect in so many different ways, the benefit of such cultivating such bodhicitta mind. And of course, if you have such bodhicitta mind, you create less negative karma, if you create less negative karma, because most of the negative karma we created due to selfish attitude. And if you have less selfish attitude and more compassion, more loving kindness, you create less negative karma and more positive karma. And when you create less negative karma, more positive karma, you are also going to have a, even if we cannot achieve enlightenment or liberation in this life, you have better condition in the future to carry on by having a higher rebirth, so that you can continue in your spiritual journey, and then until you achieve. So, that is where. And then, as Shantideva explained in his Guides to Bodhisattva Way of Life, he explained, even though when we talk about Bodhisattva's path and Bodhisattva's practice, we think of, for eons and eons, and helping to reduce the suffering of countless sentient beings, infinite sentient beings, and so forth. And even in such cases, he said, one shouldn't be discouraged, because when you develop bodhicitta mind, life after life, it becomes better and better, less and less sufferings, more and more joy. Because when you develop bodhicitta, you started to create less and less negative karma. And whatever negative karma you have already created, also you started to purify. And you started to create more and more positive karma and virtues. And through that, you are going to have better and better situations, and more happy. So if your life is going to be more and more happy and more better, even if it takes eons and eons, you shouldn't be so discouraged and pursue the path. So that is the ultimate benefit. It gives rise to the liberated, omniscient wisdom of the Buddhahood. Hence, is indispensable. Ultimately, the bodhicitta mind is the main cause of achieving fully awakened or fully enlightened state. And that is the ultimate kind of the goal that we want to achieve. And even that ultimate goal is in order to be greatest benefit and help to others. So again, we should always remember that and not disconnect from that. Otherwise, again, we might lose the track. And when you become fully enlightened, there's no enemy from your side. Wouldn't that be wonderful when you don't have any enemy? Regardless from the other side, from the enlightened being, the Buddha side, there's no enemy. The way we feel for enemy, So from inside, there's, no feeling of enemy, and therefore no feeling, there's no fear, fearless, and unconditional, limitless, true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, knowing the both reality, ultimate and conventional reality directly, simultaneously all the time, to be in both meditative equipoise and post-meditative equipoise simultaneously all the time. That is not a sentient being can do. Either you are in meditative equipoise or you are post-meditative equipoise. You cannot be in the same both together. But the enlightened beings, the fully enlightened, they are in deep meditation all the time, meditative equipoise all the time. At the same time, they are in post-meditative equipoise, helping and benefiting others all the time, simultaneously. And then the wisdom of skillful means and the power to benefit according to the need of individuals. And I think that is one of the main things. At the moment, even sometimes we have the best intention, we want to help, but sometimes trying to help doesn't have the same result. Instead, we mess up things. We try to fix something, and instead of being fixing, we make things more worse. In terms of intentions, there's nothing wrong with that. You had the best intentions, but then we don't have the skillful means, the right wisdom, how to do, how to help, what to say, what not to say, whether should I respond, not respond, how should I respond, how shouldn't respond. All of that we don't know. And so therefore not having that wisdom, not having that skillful means, then a lot of time we are unable to help, Instead of trying to, because someone is upset, maybe you want to help them to, calm down, and you do something and make them even more upset, instead of being able to help them to calm down. They are feeling very bad and you want to make them feel good. And again, you do something or you say something, instead of making them feel good, you make them feel even more worse and bad. Again, intention-wise is the compassionate intention, sense of care, wanting to help, but not having the wisdom, skillful means, how to do it, the way that can make that person more calm, peaceful, And so that is when one achieves enlightenment, you develop all this wisdom and skillful, and so it can be a greatest benefit. So I think maybe I will kind of open for a couple of questions, if anyone has questions.
Any questions online? Please raise
We'll
your
take
hand.
one. Oh, Michael, we'll take one from the Gompa.
Thank you, Geshe. So I'm struggling because in order to pay my bills, I'm working 10-hour shifts at a job where people generally scream at me all day. Before I took this job, I was able to practice a lot more, and I think I was getting more where I needed to be. I was getting closer. But now I've had to give up so much of my time to my work just to pay the bills. And with the nature of the job, my anger issues are coming back. And I try to practice when I get home and I just fall asleep. It's really starting to wear on I'm just trying to stay alive here. And I'm very glad that what you just said about trying to make people happy, and no matter what you say, they're just get more and more. That's my job. I work for a phone company. So if people keep in mind, if you're calling somebody and you're upset about your phone bill, I'm sorry. We don't understand it either. It's so complicated, you have no idea. So right now my practice is really suffering, and I'm really suffering. I got in a road rage incident this morning I'm not proud of. And at this point, I don't even know how to deal anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely, I think it's not easy in working in certain environment, but that is where, in such environment where we shouldn't think practice as something like being cushions and having time. Of course, definitely to be able to have that is wonderful if we have that, and so build up practice to be strong, and then we can bring that strong practice in work every place. But also at the same time, we shouldn't think that I cannot practice because of that. You can always remind, while at the workplace, you can keep certain things that remind yourself, watch your minds, for small things where if you are dealing with the phone or something where you can see that all the time, watch your minds, be patient, be compassionate, something those that remind you sometimes in a state of mind, we don't remember and we forget that, and then we lose our mind in that moment. And then, but if there is something to remind you, and because you have practiced and you have studies and you have learned, so when you see that, then and if you can do that, then maybe sometime you might make even more progress in such environment, because you have to practice. You have no other choice. By yourself, you have choice. No one to bother you. So even if you don't practice, it doesn't make you bad in a way. It doesn't lead you in a bad, just being lazy and not practicing. But in such situations, then you have no other choice but really practice for your own well-being, yourself, also for others. Because if you are more calm, peaceful, and more happy, you are able to communicate, you are able to do things better, more positively, and more kind. And in that way, they also receive that energy and that, and they also receive more help from that. And so therefore, so I think in such situation, when we have no other option, like in such situation, then I think we have to remind ourselves more of that and say, this job is my practice. This job is my practice. And you can have those, as I mentioned, even though this job is my practice, even though sometimes it's not easy for us to remember, we forget a lot of time. When we need it, we forget. We remember when we mess up everything, and then, oh, I should have been more patient, or I should have been more kind, all of that, but not in that moment. But if there is something that reminds you of that, and then maybe that can help. And so maybe sometime to have something pasted around there to remind us some of those practices that we need can be helpful. Yeah.
Are there any questions online? Everyone's very quiet today. Any questions in the Gompa? Oh.
Mary, there is one question.
Yes, please.
So in the online, there was in the chat, there was a question about political violence specifically, given the events of yesterday. How do we proceed to try to keep ourselves out of that, but by the same token, in many of the ways in which you just explained to your previous question, how do we respond so that we can bring the level of tension for everyone down?
Mm-hmm. Again, I think most time, first step is working with your own mind so that you don't get upset and angry by those different violent situations. Working your own mind and how to keep yourself mind more patience, more compassion, more understanding. And if our mind is, more compassions, more understandings, based on that, and your mind is also, because of that, your mind is calm and not agitated, then, even we discuss with some other peoples, whether they agree or not agree with us, even when we have, if there is some discussion, the way we discuss will be much more better. It doesn't come from that strong feeling, strong emotions of anger and upset and disturb. And so if the other person doesn't feel that negative energy from you, even they don't agree with you, there's a better discussions. The other people can listen better. You can also listen better. Or, and also we don't try, if that is the case, then we don't try to inflame more. When you are upset, then either you say, oh, the other side is bad and this and that, then you inflame other persons, and who is already angry through you, you make them more angry, and so that we don't engage in such activity that create more flame, more anger, more divisions, more hatred, all of that, because in your mind you don't have that. In your mind you are not dividing. In your mind you are not angry. In your mind, so then you don't bring. But if our mind is divisive, if our mind is angry, then we cannot stop. It just come in our actions, what we say, and how we respond, how we react. So I think it's always first. Of course, there are many different ways. Probably individual or organization can do to kind of create better environment, less division, and less violence, less anger. But it always has to start from yourself, oneself, working your mind to be, so I think that is what I can think of, and that is what I can say, mm, yeah. And as we have discussed so many times in all the teachings, and there is always going to be a different opinion, different view on everything, as long as there is two beings. Here, of course, we are talking about 330 million people in these countries. Even if it's just 10 people, there's going to be different views. Even if it's just 2 persons, there are going to be different views, different opinion on almost everything, and that is what it is. Having a different view, different opinion is not a problem. The problem is when we started to feel negative and bad about other person because they have different view, which we don't agree with, and so and so not to have that kind of feelings, different opinion, different views, and understanding if someone act violently, unkind, cruel, mean, and all of that, understanding that person is, as it is on the teachings, understanding that person is acting that way because of their own illusions, So the cause of the problem is not the person delusions. So we try to differentiate the persons and persons' delusions. And the cause of that person's violent is not the person itself, but it is because of the person's mind, because the person deluded mind. And so therefore, through that understanding, we can try to have compassion even for such persons. And of course, it's not easy. It's easy to say, to practice, not easy, for sure. But also, it's not impossible. But also, if we do practice, if we put effort, it's not impossible to feel compassion for even that. And I think, there is many examples of many practitioners, throughout the centuries in every spiritual path, and especially in Tibet. After what happened in 1959, many of them prisons, tortured in so many different ways. Some of their families were killed. Everything lost, everything, but still, and not everyone was successful, but many of them still was able to keep compassion for the very people who tortured them, for the very people who took the lives of their loved ones, for the very people who destroy whatever they had. And so if someone really practice, is it possible? It's not just that it is something that we saw in those periods. I'm not saying every Tibetan has been successful. Every practitioner is successful to that. There are some practitioners or Tibetan who are very upset and angry and frustrated and all of that. But it depends on the individual how seriously you practice or not. Those who really practice what they have learned, what they have studied into really practice, they were successful. And they came out of prison after 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, and saying, this has been the best period for my spiritual growth, my practice. They came out of that. And that's how they feel. And they also said, they share, this was the best time for them in their life, for their spiritual practice and growth, And some of them, feel compassion even for those. So, yeah. So just say it's possible. Yes.
Geshe, we had one question online. Tony, do you have a follow-up to what the topic here? Okay, oh wait. Oh, are you sure? Okay. Geshe, thank you for that beautiful answer. Kathleen has a question online. Kathleen's question is, Geshe, could you please talk a little more about the way we choose our words to alter our self-centered view of the world? Thank you.
Well, what I have heard, and also His Holiness, I think during one of the Mind and Sign conference, I think that was some medical experts and scientists, that is where they presented, one of that, their finding about how how the more people use this I or me or self, that word reinforce that feeling of me or I or self, that, and the more you use word that in that way, it reinforce, and the more stronger you have feeling of that, then kind of it affected, or they saw connection with a heart-related illness. You are more prone to that. And those who use less of those, and who, because they use less, so it is less reinforce the sense of I or self in that way, and then it is not so strong of that sense of I or self, and thus less strong in that, then they are less prone to such heart-related illness, and so that is what they presented in their finding, and so so there was, and so and because of, as I mentioned, I saw some, there are some kind of people or some kind of movement or people who try to use using the name instead of saying I or self, so that it doesn't reinforce the sense of the grasping of the self or I. So I don't know whether that was the related question, whether it was that. I don't know.
Kathleen, you can unmute. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Geshe-la. So I think I have read that too. I'm wondering, is it general Mahayana practice to choose your words so that you do not refer to yourself as you speak, rather to refer to others or to the situation, or I'm just very interested in that idea, to help change our minds by choosing our words. Thank you.
Okay.
And I think this will probably be the last question.
Yeah.
For today.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, everybody. It's not exactly a question, but it is in direct relationship to what has just been presented online as it relates to Donald Trump. As far as my relationship to Donald Trump is concerned, it's both difficult and sublime. I ran into Donald Trump in 1988 on Martha's Vineyard Island. It was not a personal encounter. However, he was there, and he was a disturbance on the island in many ways. He kind of like went there to buy up as much of it as he possibly could.
Can you hear?
No?
No, we cannot hear so clearly. Yeah, maybe you a little bit loud.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's better?
Yeah.
Sorry, I took so much of your time with speaking softly, so here we'll go. I'll cut right to the chase as far as Donald Trump and myself are concerned. He gave me an incredible gift. I've been very angry at Donald Trump for over 35 years. It's been personal, and then it became political. What Donald Trump taught me is that my anger is the same as his anger. It comes from the same place. It comes out of emptiness, streams across, and then manifests in particular ways. Identical to Donald Trump. My greed, exactly the same way. It emanates and comes out of emptiness as it's proceeding. It manifests it captures the various energies and then ultimately manifests in a certain way. Nevertheless, the greed is coming from the same place. Anger, identical, coming from the same place. My anger is his anger. His anger is my anger. I can't separate them. That was a great teaching. And I'll stop there. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. We can do the dedications.
Michael, could you please screen share Medicine Buddha 3 times? Geshe, could you lead us through Medicine Buddha mantras? Thank you.
Da be kanze ma be kanze ranza samu gade so ta da be kanze maha be kanze ranza samu gade so ta da be kanze maha be kanze Ranja Samonga de Soha.
Thank you, Geshe. Now we'll dedicate from Master Shantideva. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with the mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then the long life prayer for His Holiness. Gangri Rawe Korwe Jinkang Dir Pendan De Wa Malu Zhongwei Chen Rei Zingwa Tenzing Gyatso Yi Jape Site Bardu Tengyo Chi.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
And-
you.